Talk Radio.
I think this situation absolutely requires a really futile and stupid gesture be done on somebody's part. We're just the guys to do it.
The fun has just begun.
Yes, it has. That Nerd Show is back, and I know we've been gone for a little while and you've missed us. But we're here, we have a great show, and let's get started. I'm Marcus Blake, one of your hosts, and with me as always is Brendan.
Hello, nerds.
And a little bit later, we may have Allison Costa joining us again. It's been a while since she's been on this show, but we figure this will be a good one for her to join us in, talking about the greatest heroine in the nerd universe, picking from our favorite real-life like heroes to superheroes. There's a lot to choose from, but you got to wait to the second half of the show to get to that point with us. So stick around. We do have a lot to talk about between reviews and news and all sorts of things. But we do want to remind our listeners, if you'd like to join in a little bit later with the show and discuss with us who the greatest heroine is, our number is 347-989-1732. We hope you got your beer and you're ready to listen, because like I said, there's a lot of news to talk about. And with that said, we're going to just jump right in. All right, there's a lot of casting news this week, things that are happening, and of course, we're going to start off with Batman versus Superman and the potential Justice League movies that are happening. Despite your feelings about Batman versus Superman, whether you're excited or you're on the fence about it, that's going to be taken care of in about 10 days. But they're already starting to do things right in regards to casting when it comes to Justice League. So I'm proud to announce it's actually been confirmed. J.K. Simmons will play Commissioner Gordon in the Justice League movies. So, again,
that's a good casting, but it kind of confirms that he won't ever be back as J. Jonah Jameson in the new Spider-Man, which is a little sad.
Yeah, I know. I didn't want to mention. I'm tickled pink about the write-in campaign. I think they've got over 100,000 names on the campaign or petition to get him back. And while that is sad, there's a part of me that's like, I don't know if you necessarily need to come back. I mean, I think you're great for the Tobey Maguire versions of Spider-Man for those that really love it. And I think there are other, actors out there that can really, that can do the editor of the Bugle. I think Bryan Cranston would be do a good job for that. But, for everybody who might be apprehensive about Justice League and the DC universe in the form of movies, again, you're heading into a great direction with casting. Okay. Ben Affleck may not be a great Batman, and again, we'll find out, but J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon, that's awesome. Who they got, Jeremy Irons playing Alfred, again, great casting. So, there you go. All right, some other things that got announced this week. Of course, it slipped up about Jenna Malone's role in Batman versus Superman. At first, it was reported that she's not actually going to be in the theatrical cut, but she will be in the rated R version. Director's cut. But she will be playing, we can reveal this, she will be playing Barbara Gordon. That doesn't necessarily mean that she's playing Batgirl, because there are a couple different versions of Barbara Gordon. But that also means that she could be the Barbara Gordon that leads into, the head of Oracle. So she may already be in a wheelchair by the time we see her and stuff. Then again, she could end up being Batgirl. We don't know yet, but she is Barbara Gordon.
She could just be a young Barbara Gordon that hasn't done anything yet.
Exactly. And I don't think that's a bad casting choice. I don't think the Hunger Game movies are all that great, and I think maybe that's kind of a generational thing because they are centered around for much more of a young adult type audience. But she was great in Catching Fire and the Mockingjay movies. Definitely could pull off action and has a little bit of a badass streak. So if she ends up being Batgirl, I could get behind that within this universe. So, but I want to make one more comment, and tell me if you agree with this. Is there a part of you that pretty much wants to just skip the theatrical release of Batman vs. Superman and wait for the rated R version?
No, actually, I'm completely against the rated R version.
Really? Okay.
I think there should never be a rated R Superman. I don't even like Superman, but that's stupid. And I think all this is Hollywood executives seeing that Deadpool was so successful and not understanding what made Deadpool so successful, and they're just copying it without understanding it because that's what stupid Hollywood suits do.
Okay. Well, I'll admit I like the darker version that they're going into, and I am excited about a rated R version. I understand what you're saying about Superman, but whether it's good or not, I want to see this. I want to see what it would be like, because nothing they're doing now takes away from my love of Christopher Reeve's Superman and Superman 1 and 2 from when we were kids. I still watch those, but we'll see what happens. All right, more casting news. Well, actually, before we get to that, since we're still talking about superhero stuff, Marvel's Luke Cage will be premiering in September on Netflix.
Nice.
So, yes, we won't have to wait long for that. Basically, about 5
we
months.
just had Jessica Jones, and now we're going to have, Daredevil this Friday, and then Luke Cage, and then Jessica Jones season 2, and Iron Fist has been cast.
Right. Okay. So, and speaking of the Marvel series on Netflix, we do finally get to see the Punisher's outfit in Daredevil season 2. And you being the Punisher fan, you tell our fans, is this a good thing or a bad thing?
I haven't get a chance to see it real quick, so I'm going to Google it. But I saw a little clip of it, like a moving poster on Netflix the other day, and he looked good. He was holding a minigun and going to town, so I'm all for that. It looked, for what I've seen, it looks good so far. But I'm more. The Punisher, I mean, he wears black. He wears black tactical clothing and a skull shirt. It's kind of hard to screw that up. So
right.
as long as he's written well and acted well, and I'm pretty confident in John Bernthal can do that, then I think we're okay.
Right. Yeah. Look, it's really all about the skull T-shirt for me. As long as you have that, and it makes it look cool, I'm happy. And you're right about the gun. So. We're going to take a quick call real quick as we do news, and then we'll continue. All right, you're on the air with That Nerd Show.
Oh, hey, guys. How you doing?
So.
Good. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Akron, Ohio. Hey, I was just listening to the show. I'm at work. I didn't mean to get my call to you.
We try to take calls every now and again. So,
hey,
do you have a comment about the Superman movie or the Marvel stuff we've been talking about?
No, you know what? I got off work last night, and my wife had Daredevil on. I can't wait for the 18th for it to start.
Well, there you go. Well, thanks for calling in, and continue to listen to the show.
Thanks for having a show.
Take care.
Thanks. Yeah, we're very excited about that too, and we're not going to get much sleep at the end of next week. We're already telling our fans if we're a little groggy and talking to everybody between yeah,
All-Con St. Patrick's Day and Daredevil.
Right.
Grief.
I'm trying to catch up on my rest now. So, okay. We do have a little bit of a retraction. It's not us per se as, Hollywood reps not getting their facts straight. We reported this week that Beetlejuice 2 was a go, and that was according to Tim Burton, and that Michael Keaton would be back. Now, this has been rumored to be in development for a while. And if you've listened to our show and you know how we operate, we always wait for a confirmation. And it was confirmed, but now they're retracting it and saying, and I think Warner Brothers has come back and said, no, we really didn't greenlight this despite Tim Burton's wishful thinking. So the actual confirmed news, it is not happening. There is no Beetlejuice 2 even in development as we speak. That could change, but back to the rumor mill we go on this. And the one thing I want
that could have been. You know what that could have been? That could have been Tim Burton seeing how Deadpool got made, and he just released the news to gauge the reaction of the internet and force Marvel's hand, or not Marvel's, but Warner Brothers' hands.
And you're right. I mean, that does tend to happen in this industry. But I would like to make venture an opinion here. I don't think we need Beetlejuice 2. I really don't. I love Michael Keaton. I love the original one, and I know Michael Keaton can be funny, and it doesn't matter that he's old now. But I just think it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary to try to recapture this magic. So
yeah, it does feel like it's 30 years too late.
Yeah. You know what? You can come out with a sequel. I would say 20 years is a good cutoff, to be honest with you. And them doing a sequel to Independence Day exactly 20 years ago. And this is the part where Brendan and I get to feel old, because it was the summer after graduating high school that we saw the first one, before college, the Navy, and then all of that. And here we are again, going to enjoy it again this summer. Anyway, I think, I mean, that one works for the simple fact of you can continue the story 20 years later. You have a new generation of pilots and heroes, and that, work with the other original characters. You're not trying to make Bill Pullman still be
going to have a son.
Yeah, and maybe you can pull it off that way, but again, it gets back to, will it ever truly replace the original and how we feel for it? So sometimes the nostalgia gets the better of us, and it's just unnecessary. So,
are you listening, Paul Feig?
Hey, we're going to get to our trailer rewind here in a little bit. So, and no, it's not this week's Sign of the Apocalypse, although
it could have been.
All right, and I'm getting a little technical difficulty there. Thank you, Skynet. But I'm back. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Moving right along. This has actually been confirmed. The Tick will be returning as a series on Amazon. So all you Tick fans out there, you can be excited, except for the fact that,
no Patrick Warburton.
Thank you, Patrick Warburton. It will not be returning to the series due to scheduling conflicts.
Which is so sad, because he was the Tick.
Yeah.
So I really hope they bring back Batman though.
Right. As a nerd news outlet, we will check it out, but I'm already going in with serious reservations because Patrick Warburton is not in the show. I'm just making that very clear. So you're going to have to do a lot to blow me away now. All right. Halle Berry will be in Kingsman 2. She'll be playing head of the CIA. So that's actually not a bad casting choice. She still looks good. The only thing that I really want from her is, if she's the head of the CIA, then I think they should just add injury to insult and bring back her character from that god-awful James Bond movie, Die Another Day. Yeah.
Jinx Maze?
Yeah, Jinx Johnson.
Or Johnson? I thought it was last name Maze or something. I don't know.
CIA director Jinx Johnson.
So they went with the cheesy alliteration there, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad that she's in it. I love the fact that Julianne Moore is going to play the villain. I think they're both great actresses. But now I'm going to be making jokes until Kingsman 2. CIA Director Jinx Johnson.
Thanks for that,
Also,
Kingsman. Thanks for that, producers.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Now I got to
also
listen to
starring
bad jokes from Marcus for 2 years.
Also starring in Boogie Nights 2. Sorry. Could go either way because it sounds like.
I'm wearing a huge happy hat. Can you tell?
Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds will be teaming up for the sci-fi movie Life. It's actually an original tale. We'll also have Rebecca Ferguson in it, and we'll tell you a little bit about this film, which I'm actually glad that it's an original thing. It's not some reboot and stuff. Life, it will follow a crew aboard the International Space Station who, after retrieving a sample from Mars, discover that this displays signs of life. Said life, of course, proves to be more intelligent and cunning than expected. Life will be directed by Daniel Espinosa, the Swedish filmmaker behind films like Easy Money and Safe House. So there you go. Kind of a science fiction tale where we deal with intelligent life run amok. But it's got a good cast, so from there it does show some promise. So we did at least want to announce that. All right, this is still part of the rumor mill, but we did want to throw it up in our news rundown because a lot of times when you announce a major star as being considered for a role, you're still kind of in the negotiation phase of it, and they do end up being, being confirmed later for that role. But this is more or less us getting to comment on what's being put out there among the trades and stuff. But Daisy Ridley from Episode 7 is being considered for the Lara Croft role in the Tomb Raider reboot. They still hadn't found their Lara Croft, and looks like after Episode 7 and how great she's been that they are considering her for that. And I, for one, definitely think she can pull it off.
I don't have anything against the casting, but I just wasn't aware there was a huge outcry for more Tomb Raider movies.
Well, I think that's
where is
along
that
the
market?
Line. I think that's trying to appeal to all the Tomb Raider fans with the release of new games. So if you are going, it's a tricky thing when you're dealing with movies being made from video games. Some are okay, some are awful. None of them are truly, truly great. But a good action role and something that appeals to our universe for nerds. Again, I think this is a great casting choice if she is confirmed for it. She definitely had proved her action, being able to do action and stuff from Episode 7. And I don't think it would be it's not like she's doing Star Wars and Star Trek where there's going to be confusion. I think that would be a great, role for her. So, but you're right. I don't know if there is such a huge market. I think maybe that's also trying to appeal to younger audience who didn't grow up with Tomb Raider movies, video games.
Yeah. Hey, look, like I said, I don't have any problem with her being cast in the role. I was kind of surprised that they were even considering rebooting it. But hey, what do I know?
Well, eventually we got to get around to rebooting stuff. I think the latest Spider-Man.
When Hollywood starts rebooting video game movies, they've run out of shit to do.
Pretty much. All right. Sharknado 4 is a go, as if there was any doubt that we were going to make a Sharknado 4, but we will have Ian Ziering and Tara Reid back for Sharknado 4.
Well, shit, what else are they doing?
Yeah. This is what we call a foregone conclusion in the news.
This is what in the trade is called a paycheck.
Hey, you know what though? I love the fact that they have a second life in Hollywood with doing these ridiculous sci-fi B movies that are just absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
And they're good roles for them. especially for Tara Reid.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, to be honest, nobody's casting Tara Reid in Homeland anytime soon.
No. Maybe if she does enough Sharknado movies, it'll get her off the idea that there should be a Big Lebowski too. Because, she was trying to get that into development for a while. Anyway, yeah. Anna Torv from Fringe will be headlining David Fincher's Netflix series Mindhunter. So she will play a psychologist named Wendy opposite Jonathan Groff in the series. So you get kind of a psychological action series there for Netflix. So, if it's done by David Fincher, I'm definitely going to watch. So
yeah, I'll give it a shot. I liked Anna Torv from Fringe. She was really good.
Absolutely, she did a great job in that series. A series that lasted a lot longer than it probably should have, but thank God it did. Thank God.
Just long enough to get it into syndication. They got 100 episodes.
Exactly. All right. So, for all you Into the Badlands fans from AMC, they will be getting a season 2 in 2017. So, and you kind of have to bring that show back. I mean, choreography was great, and you left it on kind of a cliffhanger. That would be really stupid to not at least give it a second season. And by the way, that I can't wait for that to hit Netflix, so I could binge watch it all again, and make me forget that they had a sequel to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon that was completely unnecessary and horrible. Oh my God! We haven't really done a review on that, but I will just save our audience enough time and say that you could definitely skip over it. It does not hold water to the original. I love Michelle Galway or whatever her name is.
Yeah.
Gorgeous actress, great actress, but that there was no reason to make that. But Into the Badlands, absolutely keep making that. So, and I promise you, this is not this week's Sign of the Apocalypse, but yes, this is a thing, believe it or not. I almost put it into this week's Sign of the Apocalypse, but there's other things we can get to. The Where's Waldo movie has got their creative pair to adapt it from writing and producing and probably starring in it. Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. So, yeah, there you go. Yes, I just want everybody to picture Seth Rogen. Where's Waldo movie? Which, by the way, if Seth Rogen's in it, can we just call it Pineapple Express 2 / Where's Waldo? Because that's what it's really going to be.
Yeah, and why is that? Why is Where's Waldo becoming a movie?
Because we make movies out of everything. There's no story
behind Waldo. It's just a dude in a stupid hat that colorblind people can't see. And I know, because I'm colorblind. So, there's no story behind it. It's a freaking picture puzzle. Why is this being made a movie?
Hey, I know how we can't make it a movie, though. Yeah. You could do a very similar story to like the Great Saturday Night Live skit that turned into a movie. It's Pat. You don't know whether Waldo is a man or a woman, or as long as you have a very catchy tune from something from our childhood, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Yeah, But those are the only two reasons that I can think of how you can adapt it into a movie, and they're both bad ideas. It falls into the category of making something for Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah, Seth Rogen, I think you have finally... I didn't know someone could overdose on pot, but I believe you've just become the first person to do it.
I don't hate all Seth Rogen movies. He has done some very funny things. Knocked Up is a funny movie. It is. Okay.
I just think this is a step too far.
Right, I agree. I honestly didn't even hate him in the Green Hornet movie. because the Green Hornet was kind of a buffoon, and he played that well. But again, after seeing movies like Pineapple Express, that's how I'm going to see you in every movie from now on. So,
kind of how he portrays himself in real life too. So it's rather easy to do.
I'm still kind of confounded on how he got cast as Steve Wozniak in the Steve Jobs movie. I noticed that there wasn't a whole lot of scenes in that movie. I think there was probably a lot more, but they cut it and they just really kind of talked about him. I mean, whether you like Steve Jobs or not, and we're definitely not Apple people, but that was a great movie, mostly because of Michael Fassbender and Kate Winslet. But if you're going to be typecast, it's okay to be typecast in things that that you are known for. I mean, there are a lot of actors you don't need to try to stretch out beyond what you usually do. Hey, it's worked for Tom Cruise. We pretty much know what we're getting with him in every movie, but that doesn't mean that we don't still watch his movies. So, but yeah, that's actually happening. Believe it or not. All right. One more piece of casting news, and then we will get to reviews and talk about games and other things like that before we get to the theme part of our show. All right. This was a little bit weird when I heard it at first, but then I kind of took a step back and thought, this might be interesting. Craig Robinson from The Office and Hot Tub Time Machine will be cast in a recurring role in Mr. Robot Season 2. And the reason I personally don't think this is a bad idea is, that the show is so kind of dark and slow paced and taking you into stuff, which is great. You kind of need that very dark humor from someone. That's and he definitely has that kind of that great little tone with very dry comedy, as he displayed in The Office, the American version. I think it will be very interesting to see him in kind of a reoccurring role, especially if he's kind of a hacker/villain of some sort. And I think he is definitely very, very talented as an actor. But the one thing I will say this is you've got to have him at least doing one kind of weird musical number since he is musical. I'll put it to you this way. The best things that I really love about Craig Robinson being from Chicago, where he's from, is the little 5-part short episode series he did with Nick Offerman talking about the difference between Cubs and White Sox fans.
Yeah.
And them going back and forth, which is very true. But I think he can play serious in a lot of ways. And he was pretty good as the band leader in Get On Up, the James Brown movie.
Yep.
So, like I said, it's a little bit odd, and you probably don't see him in a show like that. But I think that's one that we're all going to be pleasantly surprised about. So. All right, that's pretty much all movie and TV news. So we're going to jump kind of right into games. Any major gaming news besides the release of The Division?
It doesn't really look like it. I didn't see anything in the last couple of weeks that was really huge or groundbreaking. The Battlefront's got some DLC coming out. Who cares?
That you'll have to pay for and. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't think the game was that good to begin with. So yeah, I mean, just really that was the big story, was The Division coming out, and that's been pretty well received so far. Got some big games on the horizon though. Got Uncharted 4, Thief's End comes out May 19th. Dark Souls 3 is April 12th. Quantum Break, a big Xbox exclusive, is April 5th. They've been waiting for that for a long time. Overwatch is May 24th. Doom, the rebooted Doom, which actually looks quite amazing, is May 13th. Star Fox is returned to Nintendo is April 22nd. That's going to be big for people who enjoy the Wii U. So I got a new Ratchet and Clank game on the horizon, April 12th, and Battleborn's coming out May 3rd, and that looks really fun too. So there's some big games coming out in April and May, which is nice that video game developers are finally realizing that we can buy video games at times other than Christmas. Big fan of that. So, now I don't have to buy all my games in one, 3-month span and go broke doing so.
Right. And never have enough time to play them all before we do
exactly. And by the time you finally get around to playing that one, you're like, oh, wait, this next year's game came out that's better. God dang it.
Right.
So.
Couple of comments I want to make on games is we talk about Battlefront, and while it's an okay game and brought a lot of nostalgia, I think we're pretty much over that now. There isn't anything in the, extended whatever you're about to release that's going to make anybody pick it up. I'll be honest with you. I played it for about a month, and that was really about it. Had some fun shooting stormtroopers, and it was visually stunning, but I was like, okay, well, I've had my fun with that. Let's go on to other things. If you're going to talk about releasing extended content for a game, they did just drop the stuff for Mortal Kombat 10. Didn't they?
Well, they just announced basically the Game of the Year edition, Mortal Kombat XL, where you can buy the game for the original price. If you buy Mortal Kombat X right now, it's probably $20 to $30. But if you they did a re-release of Mortal Kombat XL, which has all of the downloadable content in the game for the original purchase price of $59.99. So it's actually a pretty good buy because had you bought all this stuff separately, you would have paid probably $80-$90. So now you're getting all the downloadable content for the original purchase price of the game. So it's not a bad deal. If you haven't bought Mortal Kombat yet and you're a Mortal Kombat fan, it's a good way to go.
Well, and another thing that we haven't really had a chance to review, but I wanted to talk about it in regards to games, was they released Street Fighter V a few weeks ago. And we've kind of made our comments on social media about it. I know Sheila Moore, one of our gaming bloggers, has been messing around with it. Again, a lot of games get caught up in that it looks great with the newer console systems. You're trying to reboot something that was great 20 years ago in the concept. And Mortal Kombat has worked for what it is. But again, they add more content to it, which makes it worth buying. Here's my thing about Street Fighter V. Have it, played it a little bit. It brought a little bit of nostalgia. It is fun. I like that you can challenge someone across the world. I don't like getting beat by a 12-year-old who has nothing else to do on my lunch hour. But, I'm a grown-up. I'll suck it up and swallow my pride and realize that there are 12-year-olds out there that are better at video games than I am, and always will be. It looks great, but for me, at the end of the day, I just put Mortal Kombat back in and played that. It did not do enough for me to want to keep playing it, and I think that's kind of sad. So maybe it's time that you stop trying to reboot, or another edition of something that we did 20 years ago. I think some things might work. If I actually had a Wii, I'd be very curious about the new Zelda game. But other than that, you got to bring kind of a fresh take to it. So Street Fighter V, it's fun, but it's definitely not worth $60 in my mind. So
no, and it's gotten a lot of bad reviews too. Just that it's not a complete game and that it's very, very shallow in its content.
Yeah,
so.
To me, it just seems like that they took the earlier versions, just dressed it up with the graphics, and then added that to where you could challenge people and do tournaments with people across the world, and that is fun. That's the day and age that we live in, where everybody's online. But that's not enough for $60.
Yeah.
If you're trying to tap into the younger audiences that don't remember the first versions of it, or again, the 12-year-olds or whatever that just want a good little game that they can play with their friends online, okay, I get that. but you don't need to. But you can invent a new game for that to tap into that audience. Because if it's a Street Fighter game, you're relying on the nostalgia that people like us had for the originals. And if you're not going to impress us with what you have, then what's the point of making it? Take a lesson from Mortal Kombat. They still have great things and make it worth buying.
Yeah, and they really expanded the depth of the game to where you're not just 60. First of all, they launched a complete game. Yes, they had downloadable content, but the downloadable content were extra characters that weren't necessary to the overall play. It was extra content. It wasn't stuff that should have been in the game to begin with. And
right.
So you had a complete game, and you had all these great fighters, and then they added this level where you've got 3 different styles of fighting for each character.
Right.
So, and it basically you could fight Sub-Zero versus Sub-Zero, but if one guy's going one path and one guy's going another path, it's 2 different fighters out there. It's 2 different, completely different styles. So
exactly.
They just added a level to the game that made it really enjoyable and gave you more replayability because there was more stuff to discover.
Right. Yeah. I mean that's if you're going to bring back Game or a new version, you have to bring back fresh stuff. You have to make it worth buying instead of just trying to rehash with it. I mean, and I think that's the great thing about Mortal Kombat itself is each version they come out with, it is very much a different version from its predecessor. Annihilation. You're basically, fighting in a temple and going up different levels, and DC versus the DC universe, you get to have superheroes fight each other. And crap, that version might actually be a little bit better, Batman versus Superman, than the movie we're going to go see in 10 days. I don't think so, but I'm just being facetious. So I like I said, I played it. It's like, and it's one of those where I will go and trade it in for something else. But I do want to do a quick review on The Division. Sheila Moore did a review on the beta about a month and a half ago and gave it that it was okay. So with the full game being released this week, I am not as far into it as everybody else, but I will give you my initial thoughts and where I rate it. I do think it's a great game. I think it's a lot of fun. From a first-person shooter standpoint, you don't have to start completely over, when you respawn. If you've killed a number of guys, they're still dead when you come back and you can finish it off. It may take you 2 or 3 times on a mission, and that's one thing. It's fine. The comms, being able to talk to headquarters is kind of cool. And the part where you are getting to travel with like other agents and other players online, but you don't have to hear all of their chatter going back and forth. And that makes a huge, huge difference because that was really, in my mind, the downfall of Titanfall on the Xbox. It was just annoying hearing that. And I don't want to put my TV on mute when I'm playing a video game. I do like the background music and be able to hear stuff and sounds go around, especially if you're playing a first-person shooter and there's a lot of stuff, going on. First time I ever played Modern Warfare 3, Call of Duty, when I first got that years ago, had that sucker on the surround sound and woke the dogs up because it was all coming through the floor and stuff, and it was great. I think it's great looking. I love the style of how Manhattan or Brooklyn, Manhattan, everything looks from a dystopian point of view. It's very easy to get through and looking at the maps and also being able to target where your guys are and how to best take them down before they completely spread out and kill you and stuff. My favorite part about it is, this is the thing about first-person shooters, is how fast you can do a mission. You can, if you want to take a quick break and do a mission for 20, 30, 40 minutes and then be done with it, you can do that. There's a lot of times that doing, a campaign in first-person shooter games where it's going to take you a few hours to get through. And in a world where gamers don't always have that much time, it makes things a little bit easier being able to do that. And you can pick your missions. Do you want to go rescue hostages here? Do you want to go retrieve food supplies? So right now, without having gone through the entire game, and we may change this later on down the line, but I do definitely give it a good 8, maybe even a 9. That it's a lot of fun to go through. Doesn't take away from all the Destiny fans out there, but I heard a comment or read a comment on social media that the difference in this, how stylish it looks compared to being off-world compared to Destiny, they really made everything look great. Traveling around Brooklyn and Manhattan with other agents and stuff like that, and that's probably one of the things that's making this game so much fun. So it's definitely worth buying in my mind if you want to spend the $60 on it. But again, for somebody like me that doesn't have hours on end in the evening to play a game, then you having the short little missions that you can do here for 20, 30, 40 minutes makes a big difference. Another reason that I personally play a lot of sports games is you can take the time down on like a soccer game or a hockey game and crank one out in 10, 15 minutes and be satisfied and go on with your day. So, but yeah, the Division it's right now it's about an 8 out of 10. So it's a lot of fun, and definitely look forward to getting through it a lot more. So, and I will say this to you, Brendan. I have a copy of Black Ops 3 by Call of Duty. I don't think I'm actually going to be installing that anytime soon. Now that I have the Division. That's the thing about first-person shooter games. You get hooked on one, and that's all you're playing for a while. So, and I bet you're still working your way through Fallout 4, aren't you?
Yeah, playing Fallout 4. Aaron found our copy of Diablo 3 because we moved and we lost it, and it was hiding amongst our Blu-rays, so she found it. So I've actually been binging on Diablo 3 lately.
And there are those days where you gotta just hack and slash your way through and kill lots of things.
It's very cathartic.
It is very cathartic. I agree. All right, that's what's going on with games, and we'll get to a couple of movie reviews and stuff. We're kind of in between movies that are coming out since we've been off for about a month. Our next major movie, obviously, is Batman versus Superman, and we'll have a review for you of that in the next couple of weeks. Next week we won't have anything for you because we will be at AllCon here in Dallas. But some things on TV. The new show on A&E, Damien, which is basically a sequel to the Omen movie from the 70s. And I think this is very important. They don't actually credit the reboot of the Omen movie with Liv Schreiber. When they talk about this being a sequel, it is set 30 years after that movie from the 70s or thereabouts. And they show pictures of, Lee Remick and I just forgot the actor's name, who played Atticus Finch, Gregory Peck. And they show actual pictures from the movie and make references to that movie. So in the series. So after the first, after the pilot, which is very kind of, it's creepy. He's trying to figure out who he is and why he has visions and, why people are dying around him all the time. If you are a fan of The Omen, I think this series is going to be worth watching. So far, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. It definitely has piqued my interest. So, one thing... so definitely check that out, but we've only gotten the one episode, so it could go completely off the rails in 4 or 5 episodes. But before we get to anything else, I want to do a quick little recap on Arrow and The Flash which has, been off for a little bit, but we had a lot of stuff going on in February. And Brendan, what do you think so far? Are they topping themselves from previous seasons?
The Flash certainly is. Zoom's been pretty awesome, and the reveal of who Zoom was is pretty awesome.
Right.
But Arrow, I don't know where they're going to go now, because Damien Dark just got captured, and I thought that was going to be the end game for the season.
Right.
So I'm a little confused with where they're going to go, but that could always be a good thing, too. I mean, and of course, Malcolm Merlyn is now squarely a bad guy again. And, of course, he might be taking over Hive now that Damien Dark is powerless and in police custody.
Right.
By the way, I do love Neil McDonough, because, there's that scene where Vixen grabs his statue and bolts, and he's like, yeah, so that just happened. His delivery is awesome. So, I really do like Neil McDonough. I was really glad they cast him as Damien Dark. He was wasted in Captain America's Dum Dum Dugan. I think he said two things the whole movie.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right.
But anyway, I think Flash definitely is topping season 1. I think Arrow is certainly doing better than season 3. Whether or not they get to the heights of season 2 remains to be seen. And now that Shannara Chronicles has stopped filming, can we please bring back Slade Wilson? Because, Manu Bennett, if you're listening, I know I've met you at a few cons. I've had a good time talking to you. Please come back. The show is not the same without Deathstroke. You do a great job in that character, and we all need more Deathstroke in our lives.
Well, I love the little going to the future and seeing an older Oliver Queen in Legends of Tomorrow, where basically he has to take on the son of the stroke, of Slade Wilson. And that was very cool. About a month ago, we were at the Stephen Amell was here at the convention in Dallas, one of the Dallas Comic Cons, and had a great panel. And it was right in the middle of things, totally getting revealed that he couldn't talk about. But now we know where they're going. And you're right. I mean, it's every series has that one season where it's just fantastic, and then it kind of stumbles a little bit. It can still be great, but it stumbles a little bit. And season 2 for Arrow, that's what it is. And I think in a lot of ways, season 2 of Flash may be the same way, because you're revealing so much and you're doing so much that once you kind of let out too much, and then you're scrambling around to try to figure out how to write 20 episodes in a season. So I think it gets to the problem of you have too many episodes in a season where 13 great episodes are enough.
I would like to see them adopt. It's never going to happen because it's network television, but the Netflix format or the BBC format, the 13 episodes, because you just get more quality over the quantity. Every season's going to have filler episodes, and somebody I actually saw something talking about for different Star Trek shows, because it's the 50th anniversary and the new show is coming and all that yada yada yada. But somebody was like, "Isn't it about time Q had a show?" And I said, "No, absolutely not." I love Q, but the brilliance of Q is that he was so, besides John Delancey's brilliance and his chemistry with Patrick Stewart, was that he was used sparingly. He was used once a season. I just think it would be, you would do more harm to the character than good to have a 22-episode season show. I think you'd be much better off in that case, if you really wanted to do something with Q again, do a miniseries.
Right.
And we were just talking a couple weeks ago about how there aren't any good miniseries anymore. So, that could be cool. But, I just think the quality over quantity approach that the streaming services are doing. We spent this whole weekend Netflixing Bosch on Prime Instant Video. Right. And that's a fantastic police show. think the 13 episodes you're right on target there. That's the way to go in the future, and I think we'll see more and more of it.
Well, and you can definitely have a lot more without having these episodes where it's kind of like, I mean, we've talked about it before. That was the problem with Smallville. Because you have half the season that really great episodes, and the other half was this Dawson's Creek bullshit.
Plus you can just put so much more into each episode because your budget per episode goes up, almost doubles.
Hey, take a lesson from Kurt Sutter and Sons of Anarchy. Just saying. But yeah, I mean, so far it's been incredible what they're doing. But the capture of Damien Dark, I understand that would have been a great way to end the season. But no, you can't really. Malcolm Merlin's going to be the ultimate villain throughout Arrow. Whether he has to work with him, he loses his hand. It's one of the. I think it's going to be the lesson of him is until you fully cut the head off the snake, he's always going to come back and get you, and that's Malcolm Merlin for Arrow. So, all right. Speaking of another series, we'll do a season end an end of a full season review once it finally ends. But I, wanted to mention to our fans that shows you should definitely check out. Outsiders on WGN with David Morse and a lot of Australian actors actually that you probably don't recognize, but David Morse is probably the major casting. But the best way I can describe it to people that don't know about this series, if you took Sons of Anarchy and Justified and put it into one show, that's what Outsiders would be. And you actually have the guy who played Opie on Sons of Anarchy, who's playing David Morse's son. But it's basically about a bunch of hillbillies, so to speak, people who have lived on a mountaintop in Kentucky for generations and don't have anything to do with society. They're basically a clan, and a billion-dollar coal company comes in and wants to move them off their land. So things aren't. They're not going to go peacefully. But in part of the police force who recognizes the threat and is trying to steer the coal company way of you are going to screw yourselves in so many ways by trying to start a war with these people. And then, of course, the clan battling with one another and who's going to be the leader. And they have their own kind of, rituals and religious, notions. So, very good cast. It's been very, very interesting. There's a part of me that still wants Raylan Givens to walk up there and settle the dispute, but again, there is this kind of weird mystery when you're dealing with shows set in the hilltops of Kentucky, And I think Justified really brought that out. So for another network to kind of do a series not similar to it, but to deal with that, especially with a great cast, it's very fascinating. Of course, not to give something away, but when, with one of the guys is killing his own mother to, take control of the clan, you get, it's very Shakespearean. There's a lot of Richard III motifs to the story. So I do encourage people to check that out. Right now, I can tell you that this is definitely a 9 out of 10. It's a great series and worth watching. One other thing I want to mention is Melissa Rauch, who plays Bernadette on The Big Bang Theory. Movie that she wrote and developed came out this past week. You'll have a full review at the end of the week called The Bronze. And just a brief little thing about it. It's very funny. She definitely has, some great comedic chops. I don't know if I would pay $15 to go watch the movie, but it's definitely something worth checking out. If nothing else, for a matinee or when it gets on demand or something like that. But she did a great job in playing, an Olympic star who was America's sweetheart and still living in the past, and she's kind of raunchy, and it was very funny for what it is. Now, I wanted to ask you, Brendan, since you have Amazon, have you been keeping up with 11/22/63?
I haven't. That's the Hulu one. But I just, I really,
sorry, that's Hulu. I apologize to our audience.
I really haven't. I'm not a big James Franco fan. And I don't know. I guess I'm just tired of the whole Kennedy assassination stuff. I mean, how much? I mean, look, I understand it was a major turning point in American history, especially modern American history, and it was never solved. So that, or it was, depending on who you talk to. It just, how many movies about it can we have? I don't know. I mean, it's not like World War II where you can have thousands of movies about it because you can do different stories from different battles. It's one singular event.
Right.
And
well,
I don't know. It didn't interest me. So I just haven't. And okay. I know we live in Dallas and, it was filmed here and I should probably, but yeah, yada, yada.
Well, again, this is one of those things that we'll do a full season review when it's done. And I'm kind of with you on James Franco. He's hit or miss for me. But, it's based off a Stephen King novel, and you're dealing with time travel and stuff like that. And it's been very interesting. They're about halfway through the series now, what they're doing and everything. And for period pieces, it looks good. It's very stylish, good cast. How much far apart from the book it is, I don't know. But we'll see what happens and how by the time we get to the very end of it. It is one of the better roles for James Franco. It's not him being over the top in comedies and stuff like that. He can do some very good serious roles. But I think it's all the other side characters more than anything else that really add to the element. And Chris Cooper being in the movie and kind of being the older person who, has done all this, before the time travel and trying to do it, and having James Franco's character, taken on while he's dying of cancer, again, makes it very interesting for, what it is. And we are fans of period pieces. So if you get the looks down right, then I think that makes a big difference. That was one of the major things behind The Man in the High Castle of why it was so good. Is just because of the way they made everything look, Yeah. But anyway, it is worth checking out. I mean, that's one of those. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 so far. So if you've got Hulu, you should at least check that out. But it's one of those that you should binge watch. It's hard to try to watch from week to week, and I don't know why they do it that way. I'm like, just release all the damn episodes all at once, man. Because we want to binge watch.
Well, we have to be different from Netflix. No, you don't.
No, not really.
You're
not really that
enough.
different.
You make us pay extra for no commercials.
Pretty much. All right. And without further ado, this week's Son of the Apocalypse. No, again, it wasn't they're making a movie about Where's Waldo. This one's actually music related, since we do cover music, and we'll be doing album reviews this year. And there are some interesting things that have come out so far. For all the Jeff Buckley fans out there, and I am one of them, I think Grace is a great, great album. And he is an artist that certainly died way too young. But this week's Son of the Apocalypse goes towards music record companies. Enough is enough. When an artist is dead, there should be a limit on how many albums of studio stuff, covers, whatever that you can release over time to try to milk the guy's, the artist's name over and over. You should be allowed. I give you 3 albums, okay? So if you want to put some live stuff together for an anniversary after they've died, kind of like a Grateful Dead bootleg thing, fine. But I don't need something like every 2 or 3 years that you discovered, like, we have the previous undiscovered song that was half written by an artist, blah, 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 blah. No. Enough is enough. This week there was an album released by Jeff Buckley called or Do As I Am, or You and I, or something like that. Something that's unimportant, and here's why it's unimportant. The entire album had no original music. It was no live album from some concert in Europe or whatever. It was him doing covers like he was playing guitar at a coffee shop. It was a bluesy, folky guy trying to do covers of Motown hits that, well, some people do great covers of that, like the entire Commitment soundtrack from the movie.
Yeah.
Jeff Buckley is not one of those artists. And then you sneak in the song Grace from the album, like we wouldn't really notice. And just because we haven't heard that song over and over and over for the last 22 years since he passed away. So if you want me to spend $13 on a guy that I like doing covers that sounds like he was playing guitar for a few bucks at Starbucks, no. And getting the album for free, I just stopped after halfway through the album. It wasn't even worth my time to listen to him try to do these covers that weren't even really that good to begin with. Now, some of the live albums they have released over the last 20 years with Jeff Buckley have been great. Some concerts that people don't remember he did, like in Sweden or something, and I've got a couple of these albums. Fantastic. Because live albums do sell, and they can be pretty good. There are bands and artists that do really, really great, with a live album. But I don't need to be reminded about Jeff Buckley and that he's gone and stuff like that. I have the Grace album. I have the remastered edition of the Grace album. And I will listen to it over and over and over, just like I listened to Thriller over and over and over after Michael Jackson's death, to remember the greatness of this artist and then how it never gets old. Stick with the classics. Just don't try to get me to pay your $13, $14 or download your ridiculous album just because it has the artist's name on it. So, shame on you. That's all I have to say on that. And thank God I only got it for free, because you're not going to get my money when you're trying to pawn that crap off on me. There's too many other good artists out there that I can listen to. Or, again, I can go back and listen to the album that made them famous. So, and how many times have we actually listened to the Thriller album after Michael Jackson has been dead, and it never gets old, for example?
I was still waiting for him to jump out of the casket and do the Thriller dance right there in his funeral. I was convinced it was all a big media ploy to re-jumpstart his career. I was so sad when it wasn't.
And you know what? If they had released another remastered edition of Thriller after that incident, I would have paid the money for it. That would have been worth it. So, but anyway, we'll have some album reviews for you of the new Kill Switch Energy album, and there's some other things coming out this year. Remember the band Three Doors Down?
Yeah, they finally came back.
Yeah, they came out with a new album. It's like, really? All right.
They went on a hiatus for like a decade.
Yeah. It was interesting. That's all I can say. Some bands can go on hiatus.
I wish I could make enough money so I could take a 10-year vacation.
I guess you got to make that really great album that keeps selling millions, or get with a record company that keeps re-releasing it every 2 years to put more money into your pocket.
Get right on that.
Yeah, that's how that works. All right, we're going to be back in a little bit. We're running a little behind, but we will get to the greatest, who is the greatest heroine in the nerd universe. I'm going to take 30 seconds. I'll be right back. Just because you have a business doesn't mean you have the roadmap to success. In fact, 80% of businesses will fail. But there is one important thing you can do to help ensure that your business is not one of them. Go Pro. For all of your printing needs, your web and graphic design, and your advertising, there is only one place to shop, the Business Pro Shop. Go Pro with your business today and start with 500 free business cards with your first order. Call
901-4665 to go pro.
All right, and we are back. So we talk a lot about superheroes and our favorite movies and stuff, and we've talked about heroines before, but we've never really done a full theme show about who our favorite heroines are. And it isn't just about superheroes. It's, actual live action movies and stuff, but excuse me, everybody, there's that beer going down. That's what happens when you're drinking good craft beer. The thing about heroines is you can write them really well. Like superheroes, they leap off the page and they're great and stuff. But sometimes you don't fully appreciate them until you get the right casting. Black Widow is a good example. I think Scarlett Johansson really brought her to life for me. And she has been fantastic in all those Marvel movies. So, like I said, we wanted to talk about who we think the greatest heroine in the nerd universe is, and our answers may be a little bit different, but we also wanted to hear from our audience. And this is for all the, especially for you female nerds out there. Is there a particular person that you absolutely love that, you can emulate yourself after, as a hero? And if you'd like to call in and make a comment, our number is 347-989-1732. And we definitely do want to, listen. We want to hear your opinion. You can also tweet us at that Nerd Show. We've been tweeting live throughout the show, letting you know what's going on. But without further ado, we kind of put together a top 10 list, and we're going to kind of go up from 10 to 1, and then we're going to talk about our honorable mentions in regards to heroes. And I'm gonna start it off by saying that with the release of Episode 7, Rey is not on my top 10 list. She is an honorable mention for me. As much as I liked her in the first movie, and Daisy really did a great job, that character has not been developed enough to warrant being on the top 10 list. In 5 years, probably, but right now. We've only seen her once, and I just can't do it, Brendan. I cannot put her in the top 10 list. Loved her, but there's too many heroines out there that already have her beat.
I wouldn't have put her in the top 10 list either.
Yeah.
Not there's anything against her, but like you said, grade is incomplete.
Exactly. You're not even a Jedi yet. Episode 8, after you pal around with who's probably your dad, then you might make it into the top 10. But not now.
Let's see the whole trilogy first, then we'll see if she cracks the top 10.
Right. Let's get there. All right. So I'm going to start, and the bottom of my list is Captain Catherine Janeway. That's who I have at number 10. And I thought it was great that Star Trek finally had a female captain, and I love Kate Mulgrew. Even though I'm not a huge fan of Star Trek Voyager as a series, I love the idea of the story. But I thought she was fantastic, and the only thing I was disappointed is there wasn't enough of her, working with Jean-Luc Picard and all that. There's basically one scene with them together, and it's over a telecom. But she, in a lot of ways, just kind of made it, and I think it was Kate Mulgrew, doing the part that really just kind of made that role, and why it lasted for 7 years. Also, I didn't mention this earlier because I was saving this. You were talking about a Q miniseries and how that character was so great. Him popping in and out of Voyager was also fantastic. I think one of my all-time favorite episodes is when he wants to take Janeway as his wife. And then they end up into the little flashback ruined, hologram deck of the Civil War. And she's a Southern belle, and he's trying to woo her and everything. Yeah. So her just kind of playing off cue made it in a lot of better. And in some instances, I liked that a lot better than I liked him interacting with Jean-Luc Picard. So I have Catherine Janeway as my number 10. So what about you, Brendan?
River Tam.
Okay.
From
All right.
Firefly and Serenity. I just like the fact that she was this little girl that everybody thought was just nuts, and it turned out she was the key to everything. And took out an entire room of Reavers with their own weapons.
I will admit the scene at the end of Serenity where she's just frozen with the battle axes dripping blood is probably one of the hottest scenes ever started in a nerd universe. Yeah. Okay. I will go with that. I hate to spoil it, but River Tam didn't actually make it into my top 10. She's like number 11. But there's just I didn't want
how I can understand how she wouldn't, but I just really liked it, so that's
I'm also not trying to include every woman from the Whedon universe. I try to branch out because there's a lot of it's very easy to have over half your list be, people from the Whedon universe. But I'm like, but there's other things out there that we have to talk about. That's where the honorable mentions coming in. She's like my third honorable mention, and if we were doing a top 20 list, she would be at number 11 because you're right. And Summer Glau was great as the female Terminator in the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Yep.
So one of these days she's going to get a series, and it's not going to end too early. One of these days it's going to work out.
Or she's not going to get killed off like on Arrow.
Yeah, right, exactly. All right. So my number 9 is Ahsoka Tano. And again, this goes back to Rey being an honorable mention. Ahsoka Tano she became a Jedi. And has come full circle as a smuggler and helping the rebellion cause and in Star Wars Rebels. So, you get to see her grow throughout the Clone Wars, and it's very tragic to, see her leave the Jedi Order and what really happened to her. And then, she's gone, and it's like, oh, okay, well, what's going to happen to her? And then they bring her back. So having her story be told as, oh, I, feel through the Force what happened to my master, and it's that whole beginning of season 2 where she's just like screaming out, and then of course you see them kind of, him reaching out to her, and throughout the series, she very much in a lot of ways is still a Jedi, but at the same time she also knows there's a threshold she can't cross anymore. That episode a few weeks ago where they have to go to the Jedi Temple and Yoda comes back.
I haven't had a chance to see it yet because of my computer has had problems since the move, so I'm about 4 or 5 episodes behind on Rebels.
Well, and I apologize to any of our audience if you're not completely caught up on that, but I love her for the maturity that she has now. And also realizing that, yes, she's a Jedi. She still has her lightsaber. She still uses the Force. She'll always be a Jedi at heart, but there's that threshold that she can't cross anymore because she chose to leave the Order, and that threshold being of using Jedi powers to help open up the temple. That, Ezra and Kanan, had to do it. Okay, and she just, it's like, no, that's not my life. So there's still that respect for her. And she's not flying all over the place and that little innocent, annoying little girl that in that first Clone Wars movie way back when. So, if you're going to put like a female Jedi in there, then I think Ahsoka Tano definitely has to be in that list. And one day Rey may actually replace her, but for right now on this list, that's where I put her. I love the fact that she came back, and that she, and I hope they complete her story somehow, even if she is going to die tragically, And there's a part of me that doesn't want her to die. I would absolutely love for her to pop up in the new trilogy somehow, being an old Jedi and everything really coming full circle, because she is she's so fun. So that's my number 9. What about you?
Lilu Dallas, multipass.
Nice.
Like I was debating, which because I had to have Mila Jovovich on this list somehow, and I was debating whether I was going to go with Lilu or Alice from the Resident Evil movies. And certainly the Resident Evil movies there have been more of them,
right.
But The Fifth Element is such an amazing movie. It's probably, it's probably my favorite Bruce Willis movie, even more than Die Hard. And I love Die Hard.
Right.
So, and then you've got Gary Oldman was amazing, and then Tiny Zeus Lister is the president. That's just awesome. And Ian Holm is the priest, and it's just such a great movie. And she is the central part of it. And she,
right.
Hey, and these are heroines. Well, what does she do? Oh, she just saved the entire world.
Right. Also, it should be noted that even though you don't think somebody like Chris Rock should be in that movie, he works perfectly in that movie as Ruby Red.
Oh, Chris Tucker.
Chris Tucker. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm getting my Chris, but yes, absolutely hilarious.
Call him my man.
I feel bad as a nerd that I didn't even have her in my list. I really do. I feel such a shame. I'm being shamed as a nerd right now. But this is what happens when you have a nerd co-host.
But there's a lot of great female characters out there. So
no, they are, and it should be noted. I love the fact, whether you consider it too PC or whatever, I love the fact that you're getting great female characters, that they're being written well. Okay. I think they always, in the last 20 years, they have been. It's kind of flown under the radar. I guess again, Joss Whedon, because he writes female characters better than he does male characters. We know what we're going to get, even though it's great and all that, but we get completely surprised with the female characters. The other thing I want to point out about Fifth Element, now as a nerd, and I'm talking to every nerd out there, be honest. When that's on TV, you will stop what you're watching and you will finish that movie, won't you? Don't lie. Everybody will. That
absolutely
such an very underrated. It almost has this cult-like feeling, because it wasn't a huge hit at the box office and everything, but just the way it was put together, with its cast, fantastic. And yes, Mila Jovovich with her orange hair. She's gorgeous in the Resident Evil movies, but I'll admit I like the orange hair. So I will agree that is a good choice right there. Good choice. All right, number 8. Number 8 for me is Starbuck from the new BSG. And again, it comes down to great casting. Katie Sackhoff was in so many ways perfect for that role. She was funny, headstrong, rebellious, played off everybody so well. I thought the scenes with her and Edward James Olmos were better than anybody else. And whether she was really a ghost or not a ghost or however that ended up by the end of the series, nothing to take away from Dirk Blocker, from the original series. He was kind of funny. But she really owned that role, and doesn't help that you look great, sitting in a Viper, and stuff. So yeah, that Starbuck. So, and I'll admit, there's a part of me that really wants to roll a hard 6 with her. I'm like what's his face from Big Bang Theory. It always has the fantasy of her in the Viper uniform, which I'll admit, as much as I don't like the show, them spoofing her and her being that fantasy for them does make that show a little bit better. So, got to put Starbuck in there. Also, kudos to whoever put that photo together like 10 years ago where her and Dirk Blocker were at a Starbucks smoking a cigar. Good job.
Yeah.
That was one of the better photos. So, now, with that said, I didn't put 6 in my top 10.
She wasn't
I debated between Starbuck and her. I really did, but at the end I got to go with Starbuck. So, but anyway, who's number 8 for you?
Number 8 for me, I actually am doing a trio at number 8 just because I know they were really big for girls and women throughout the late 90s, early 2000s, but the Charmed Ones.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, think of another show where the heroes and lead characters are all women.
True. Okay.
I mean, you'd have to go back to Charlie's Angels.
Right.
So I just think it was a very important show, and for female heroines, and just giving them a place on TV. And I know a lot of women who, to this day, still watch them in syndication.
It's still a very big show in syndication on like TNT and TBS and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're absolutely right. And even though the one of them, Shannon Doherty, can't get along with anybody in any show that she, is ever in.
Right.
She was great with them. You couldn't tell that there might have been infighting on the set, but even when she was replaced,
with Rosie
the other
Dunn.
actress, it actually still worked. No, I agree. I think that's a very interesting. I never even thought about that. Hopefully, and you hit the nail on the head with a trio of women that just really worked, that everybody kind of looked up to. It's Charlie Angels without the ridiculousness of the movie. That never should have really been made. They each had their own strengths and stuff like that. But that's a good one. Very good one. So it's kind of funny that you talk about like putting a trio together. I did something similar for my number 7 because they're essentially the same thing for their teams. I have Felicity and Chloe Sullivan at the same stuff because they basically are the computer geeks that run a team or run Oracle, or even though they don't really call it Oracle and Arrow. That's basically
Overwatch.
what it. Yeah, it's basically what it is. They are both very nerdy in their own ways. They definitely have that nerd-like librarian schoolgirl type thing, but are very smart and kind of, punkish and feisty. I think they're both Allison Mack and Emily Brackert are both very gorgeous women. And how they come across with those roles are very, very similar, and then they, play off everybody very well. I think I like Felicity just a little bit better, but at the same time, I mean, having Chloe Sullivan last throughout Smallville, especially when she finally learned the truth and then kind of developed her own little weird superpowers, helped make that show better. But you're basically taking two different roles without it being Barbara Gordon, doing Oracle, but the same kind of motif. And they generally end up being smarter than the guys that are going out there and always having to figure out some neat trick to get them out of trouble. So, like I said, I kind of put them together. Also, by the way, Chloe Sullivan was a lot more fun to watch on Smallville than Kristen Krug, who played Lana, who was just horrible. So, I could put Lois Lane in this position, but Lois Lane, as fun as she is, she really is just, a feisty, headstrong woman that, is madly in love with Superman. There really isn't much there. The only thing I can say about Lois Lane is I'm glad that she figured out the secret pretty early on in Man of Steel, so we didn't have to deal with that ridiculousness. But I think the computer geeks that really help run a team end up being better. So yes, Felicity and Chloe are my number 7. That's how I did it. So, what about you?
My number 7, I went into the animated world, and this is a pick basically from my wife, but I also liked the movie too. But I'm going to go with Merida from Brave.
Nice.
So it was just a really good movie. Anything that's Scottish, Celtic, Irish, I'm into it. Yeah, it was just a really good movie, and she's a heroine, so put her on my list.
And you know what? Kathy McDonald, just doing the voice without her, actually really seeing her, 'cause she's a gorgeous woman in real life, but her just doing the voice with that great Scottish accent just made the character a lot more sexy to begin with as well. So again, getting the right cast really does help with your character. So that was another one I didn't even really remember. I've only seen it, I think, like twice. One, I think we did a review on it maybe, and then I saw it with my nephew. So, but no, that's a good one. So here's a really quick sub question: Do you think that movie warrants like a sequel?
It would have to be a really good story. I don't honestly. I think it's a very good, well-contained story. I don't think it needs a sequel, but if they had a good script for it, sure, why not?
There you go. I think there's definitely more you could do with that character.
Yeah.
And besides, who doesn't want to see the triplets get into more trouble?
Right.
Really funny in that movie. Okay, cool. All right, number 6 for me is going to be Black Widow. So, even though she's not really a superhero, just really good at everything, and basically your secret agent, really holds her own with everybody and all of their egos and stuff. I thought Scarlett Johansson was perfect casting. I definitely liked her as a redhead. Her probably the best movie with her is Captain America 2. Playing off Chris Evans so well, and I like how in the middle of them, trying to hide, they keep having this ridiculous conversation on, hey, you should check out so and so in accounting. She keeps trying to set him up.
Right.
And you keep thinking all the lines like, I don't know why you're doing this. You should just end up getting together yourself. But then you figure out in the next movie, Avengers 2, she has this secret love with Bruce Banner who can't be with her. But Black Widow is that perfect shield agent who can just do anything without having a superpower. And still very much keep her feminine wiles and stuff. So I do put her there, and I think that's a character that can very much get overshadowed being an Avenger. When you're dealing with Iron Man and Thor and stuff, and she doesn't. Not at all gets overshadowed, and very much looks at and is very as important as everybody else on that team. So, yeah, Black Widow goes at number 6 for me. What's your number 6?
My number 6 was Starbuck. And since we've already talked about it, we can move right along. But, yes, I love Starbuck. I also love her on Longmire. She's freaking great. So,
that, in a lot of ways, you can pretty much put those two characters together in the same description, because she pretty much is the same character in a lot of ways, just not being a pilot. In Longmire,
right.
And it might be considered typecasting, but you kind of need her being that strong-willed woman, but also insecure and fearful and stuff like that. In Longmire, it's a great foil. It really truly is. So yeah. I'm glad Katie Sackhoff has found these roles, in a TV series that, and while they may be very similar to one another and consider typecasting, they're also very different, and we don't necessarily see it that way, and we just love her for doing stuff like this.
Great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And she's wonderful to speak to at a con. She's very engaging with the fans. So.
Well, and that's a whole other thing. You know, pretty much didn't have anything to her name to her credit, just a few like guest things on TV shows before she was Starbuck, and just owned that role. She was actually really good in the last season of 24. You know.
Yep.
And she is one of these actresses that, you know, I've always said that I think women get better with age, and you know,
honestly,
doesn't need. Go ahead.
You know, if they redo 24 with a new character, I wouldn't mind it being hers. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring her back. That's what we say. Okay. We're gonna do number 5 and then take a quick break, and then we'll do the last half and get to number 1. Number 5 for me is Wonder Woman, and I have a friend that'll be mad at me for this, but you know, Wonder Woman didn't make it to number 1, and she is just a little bit better than Black Widow because she is actually a goddess. And you know, again, if you really look at Justice League, she doesn't get overshadowed by everybody else too. I loved Linda Carter as Wonder Woman. Well, probably mostly from the 70s outfit, but some of the animated stuff where Kerry Russell has voiced Wonder Woman, she has, you know, really brought that role out and stuff. And yeah, I have no idea whether Gal Gadot is going to be great as Wonder Woman. I have a sneaking suspicion that she is going to be fantastic, and am looking forward to, you know, the Wonder Woman movie. But I like Gal Gadot as an actress to begin with, and everything that I have seen from the trailer, you know, how she has filled out that uniform, kind of gotten buff and everything. She's going to be great for this universe. But I think it's important to talk about Wonder Woman as a superhero. Now, for the Marvel fans out there, if you're wondering why I didn't throw someone in there like Storm or Jean or you know, Dr. Gray or any of the dozen that you can have, this is my own personal bias. I am a DC guy. Always have been, and I'm always going to be more of a DC guy compared to Marvel. But I will say this to satisfy everybody out there that may disagree with me. I can very easily put any of the X-Men women in number 5 because they're all great. It's just, for me, it has to be DC. So that's why Wonder Woman is at number 5. And I do like the outfit. Who's number 5 for you?
Well, and I kind of looked at doing the list differently from you. I went with, I mean, some I picked for characters, but others I picked for performances and actresses. So Wonder Woman actually didn't make my list, not because I don't think the character's good, but just because I don't think there's been a performance yet that warrants being on the list.
Right.
So my actual number 5, just because, again, it was very iconic for the time, and because you had a female lead on the show carrying the show, but Xena.
What?
Xena.
Oh, wow.
With Lucy Lawless. So.
Wow, I know.
Just kind of, that one, you know, went for a long time, and it was a show that had a female lead heroine who was saving men, you know. So,
right.
I mean, how many times did she pull Sam Raimi's brother out of the fire? So, you know, or Bruce Campbell for that matter, and we all love Bruce Campbell. And, of course, the show gets a nod for having Bruce Campbell on it. But
right. Well, and bringing her back, Lucy Lawless back for you know, Ash versus the Evil Dead. So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
And she was on Battlestar Galactica, and she was in, you know, what else was she in recently? I forget now. But anyway, but yeah.
Well, let's not forget how evil and yet wonderful she was in Spartacus.
That's what I was trying to think of. Thank you. So,
yeah, you love to hate her, but also it should be noted, out of any of the characters that she's played where she's died, Spartacus was the best death scene ever.
Mm-hmm.
You dive off a cliff while you're stealing a baby. Yay! Not to spoil it for everybody, but
well, if they haven't seen it,
Body
then
Artist, we will always love it in the afterlife, and you just go full. Yeah, that. Yeah, and no, I do completely agree with you on that. And Xena Warrior Princess should be talked about more. I don't think it should ever be rebooted either. Not at all.
No.
But you know they have to. So, all right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and do the top 5. Who will make it?
Just because you have a business doesn't mean you have the roadmap to success. In fact, 80% of businesses will fail. But there is one important thing you can do to help ensure that your business is not one of them. Go Pro. For all of your printing needs, your web and graphic design, and your advertising, there is only one place to shop, the Business Pro Shop. Go Pro with your business today and start with 500 free business cards with your first order. Call 888-901-4665 to Go Pro.
All right, and we're back. And actually, I misspoke. We actually have the last 4. So I was doing my count here. And I actually forgot to add someone to the list. That's the problem when you start talking about it. I really made it a list of 11, but I had to take someone off. So she will end up being an honorable mention a little bit here later. All right. Excuse me. My number 4 is none other than Princess Leia. So even though she didn't really become a Jedi,
that's hilarious. We have her at the same spot.
Yeah. Well, I could almost, without knowing your list, without having seen anything previously, I think our top 2 or 3 are going to be either the exact same or like right in that mix, because I think we all know where we're going. But I sort of foreshadowed it a little bit earlier in the show if you were listening. But no, all right. I would have to trade in my nerd card if I did not put Princess Leia ahead of people like Wonder Woman and Black Widow and not have her in this list. And here's why. Yes, we know she never became a Jedi with the new continual universe, but she is Force sensitive, okay? But she is feisty. She can fight. She is elegant, and Carrie Fisher. You look back and maybe that's the nostalgia. I can't picture anybody else but her, doing that role. And the fact that
she was the architect of the fall of the Emperor.
Exactly.
She was the brains behind the whole operation.
Right. And at the same time, breaks the mold and doesn't marry royalty or anything like that. She falls in love with the smuggler, the criminal who, the hotshot pilot, and they just them going back and forth with one another is exactly how a relationship should be. It's that wit and stuff like that. And they, even though there's this 30 years between Return of the Jedi and Episode 7, you still get a lot of that in some ways, but that regret of what, happened with their son and stuff like that. And she's still running the show. I thought the opening line was fantastic, Max von Skydow's character. Well, to me, she will always be royalty, and then
royalty, yeah.
Right. Well, she certainly is that. If you're looking at that archetypal, woman who can be in charge, smart, elegant, sensitive, can love and all that. If there is a character out there that's truly going to empower women, okay, then it's got to be Princess Leia. And the fact that you have her...
Even in 1977, when the first movie came out, Han and Luke go to save her, but it's her that ends up rescuing them when they get stuck in the one way out. It gets them into the trash compactor.
Right. And that whole scene was great. Into the garbage chute, flyboy. Well, I think my favorite line from episode 4 is...
I want to kill her.
Right. I think my favorite line from that movie is, wait, you came in that? Well, you're braver than I thought. It's just... we talk, especially during an election year, and I'm not talking politics on this show, but there's a lot of this that talks about women can do anything, and that we can finally have a woman president and stuff like that. Well, yes, we can in real life, but we look for stories and archetypes that empower us, that we gain our inspiration from, and whether. I don't think there is anything from a pop culture standpoint that really kind of broke the mold and said, yes, you can do it all. You can be the true Renaissance woman and what I mentioned before, love and be a fighter and a leader and stuff, and just absolutely have all of that. And while you are sensitive and let your guard down and, fall in love with the smuggler, it doesn't matter. There's nothing whiny about you. We just love everything about who you are.
Right.
I don't think there was anybody that came along at that time. Certainly not Wonder Woman, because it was kind of cheesy. And Charlie's Angels, maybe. But that one defining person, yes. I think it's Princess Leia. And that's why I put her there. I don't think she's the absolute best. Out of heroines in the nerd universe, I think there have others that have certainly come along, more that are better.
Mm-hmm.
But she's the one that starts it all. She's the one that defines it more than anything. So, for everybody that thinks, "Yay, I'm a fan of Hillary Clinton, she can be blah blah blah," no. You know what? Princess Leia. And in fact, that's who I'm voting for as the first woman president. I'm just saying.
Actually, would vote for Carrie Fisher.
I would, yeah.
If for nothing else, think the White House tours would be phenomenal because it would have a 2-drink minimum.
Can you imagine? She could probably get. She could make all these great deals by just getting world leaders drunk and pumping them, getting them on Quaaludes. I think if there's anybody that can actually disarm Putin and get him to do what you want, it would be her. And if he's not playing along,
can drink him.
Yeah, look at Gary. Look at Gary, my dog. Let him lick your face. Are you going to say no to that? He's got more Twitter followers than you do. Yeah, but that's why I picked Princess Leia. So, what are your reasons for Princess Leia?
I think we just enumerated them all.
Oh, okay. I pretty much said it all. All right.
More or less, yeah.
Well, and again, I love the fact that we had an episode with her in Rebels, where she's, basically 14, but yet still that fighter and fierce. And I know they tried to capture that magic with Natalie Portman and as Queen Amidala, and she is. But it's
problem is she wasn't given much to work with. The dialogue.
Exactly.
You can't do much. You can shape a turd into the statue of David, but it's in the end of the day, it's still a turd.
Right. As fun as she is, as great as an actress as she is, yeah, you're right. Not a lot to work with, and she does come off very whiny, and it takes away from some of the key moments of her. And great lines. I mean, like in episode 3, that's how Liberty dies with thunderous applause. That is a great line.
Yeah.
But, she isn't the archetype for everything. I think Princess Leia works better because it's like you can learn, even though she didn't really know her mother, it's like you can learn from everything, and you have really been caught up in all of this all of your life.
Yep.
And maybe one day, if they ever reboot the prequels or remake them, which, knowing Disney, they probably will, they'll get someone who with more dialogue and can do better, and stuff. And I have hopes for Rey, if she really truly is a Skywalker, but there's a lot that you have to embody with it.
No.
And as we learned from Carrie Fisher, who, made no bones about it, you don't have a bra in space. You got to keep the girls down with gaffer tape as you're running through the Death Star. So, all right. Moving along to number 3. Number 3 for me is Root from Person of Interest. I love Amy Acker. I loved her on Angel and, everything else that she has done. Product of Dallas and the, SMU drama department. But it's just funny to kind of watch her, it being the smartest one, but kind of so polite, as like she's killing people, but yet she's fierce. And another great one for the Whedon universe. I think in some ways, a lot of ways, she was perfectly cast for Person of Interest, because she really isn't a good guy, but yet she is and does care, and very much has this goal, and is not afraid to express her love for Shaw, as we all saw last season. So I put Root, in that category, because she is on the same level as Harold, just smart and funny and probably the only one that can equally match him when it comes to computers and, developing artificial intelligence and stuff. I just couldn't imagine anybody else playing that role on that show. So, maybe a little biased, but I put Root at number 3. So, what about you?
I don't have her on my list just because I didn't really think of her as a heroine, but I don't see anything wrong with it either. Number 3, I did go with another recent show, though. I went with Jessica Jones, just because that show was so totally different and really changed what people's ideas of what a superhero or a heroine could be.
Right.
She takes the private eye genre and flips it on the head. She's the hard drinking, detective, and instead of a guy like, James Garner from the Rockford Files in the 70s, but she's also this superhero, or former superhero. And I really was not excited about Kristen Ritter when she was cast, but she did an amazing job on the show. Yeah.
Well, and she is so broken, too, that you don't think of her as much of a hero, but yet she is.
Yeah.
And I loved her playing off of David Tennant. It really worked out well and stuff.
He was so creepy. He was phenomenal.
I know.
Usually that's not a compliment, but in this case it is.
Well, he's David Tennant. He's just awesome to begin with. So, no, I mean, I think you're right. Another one that kind of broke the mold and not what you're really thinking of. I mean, she is so messed up and all that. You don't think of her as a hero, but yet she really is. Yeah. And I can't wait to see her in the Defenders miniseries and with everybody else. So
I love the whole bit where she scares the guy into being served, and then she laser beams out of my eyes.
Right.
Not so subtle shot at Cyclops. Yeah.
Right. So, all right. Moving right along to number 2. My number 2 from the Whedon universe is Kaylee from Firefly. I can't tell you how much I love Kaylee. Just this nerdy, quirky little girl who knows more about engines than anybody else, and always had some of the best one-liners, from Firefly. And you know what? As god-awful and tacky as that ridiculous 19th century pink dress was, where she had a parasol, Jewel Straight wore that, and I'm like, keep wearing that. And I think, again, that comes down to an example of perfect casting. Jewel Straight's a phenomenal actress to begin with, and while you may not have seen her a whole lot, she just has that quality about her, is that just nerdy, quirky girl that you absolutely love. She's their Felicity, that keeps everything running. And call me crazy, but I think she almost looks better, with a little bit of grease on the side of her face. There's a weird fantasy out there with that, but that's who I had at number 2. Because if you're going to fly a ship, and be a smuggler and all of that, you got to have somebody like Kaylee on your ship, to keep the engines running. And that wasn't a euphemism. I meant that like literally. However, you can take it however you want. So, she is my number 2. How about you?
Well, I'm also going to space for my number 2, but I'm going to a different genre altogether, a different story altogether. I'm going with Ellen Ripley from Alien.
Wow. Nice. See?
Yeah. Because she's just a badass. And survived how many horror movies?
Right. Now, when you are talking about her, are you talking more like Aliens, the sequel, or like the first one?
The whole franchise.
Okay. All right.
Just her character, as they go throughout. But it's those frickin' xenomorphs are frightening as hell, and yet she seems to come out on top every time. So. Even when they make a hybrid alien baby out of her. They turned her into a hybrid alien baby mama.
There was no purpose.
And then she spaces her own son.
Yeah. There is literally no purpose for Alien Resurrection as a movie. But you watch it for the simple fact that Josh Whedon, wrote the screenplay, and it's just Sigourney Weaver killing everybody and just, being sexy while she does it.
And I have nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
No, I don't either. It's like, there's not a major story to really tell here, but
we just wanted to see Ripley go to town one more time.
Pretty much, yeah. That's just for pure entertainment. I mean, that's the pure definition of just like this really B pulp movie where you're just going to have a lot. Like instead of watching Grindhouse, the Quentin Tarantino movie, I'd rather watch that, because you had this great cast with it, and and you did find a very unique way to kind of bring her back and just go to town on everybody. So. Very, very interesting choice. She didn't make my top 10 because I'd actually completely forgotten about it. But you've actually reminded me of some things that I forgot. So my nerd card.
And I tried to pull a lot of. I have some of the ones that everybody expects, but I tried to pull some different ones that nobody was thinking of. So.
Right. No, and that's a good way. I mean, and that's the thing about things. There's so many out there that you don't really think about now. That you have to go back, like 40 years to really look at everything that's come out. Because, it's been almost 40 years since the original Alien movie. But, anyway. Getting to the number 1, and we're going to kind of do this quickly before we close out this show. My number 1 may be an obvious choice, but it's Inara from Firefly. And the reason that she is number 1 is she's, in a lot of ways, the Black Widow of that show. She can do everything. It's not, you're not just being trained as a high-class prostitute in her school. You're intelligent, you can speak multiple languages, you know how to seduce people, but you're a warrior, you're smart, you know how to deal with the scum of society. She's basically a secret agent, okay? And while I'm not a huge fan of Morena Baccarin with short hair like she had in the reboot of V, she was gorgeous in that TV series, and I loved how she played off the captain all the time. That she was the only thing that could disarm him, that can drive him, and he was the same thing for her. She was trained not to let her guard down and be in control at all times, and he always did that to her. So you still very much have this Princess Leia Han Solo thing going on. But no, she could do it all. And that's why she's my number 1. If you're going to build a perfect female, and I'm not saying you should emulate being a prostitute, but it goes more into the training that she has of what it is. It wasn't just about being a prostitute. It was, everything that you can be. It's the difference between being on a street corner and actually being a high-priced escort to look good on your arm that you may or may not sleep with, that kind of stuff. And again, being very smart and well-read and stuff like that. So that's why Inara is my favorite. And she was I should probably put Zoe there because she was the warrior, but I think she's very one-dimensional in a lot of ways, and Inara isn't. So that's who I have as number one.
I went in a completely different route because I only did one. If I picked one from a show, I wasn't picking multiple from the same show. So I picked River, so that's my Firefly. But my number one is Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor.
Okay, nice.
Because she doesn't just tilt at the wind. She says, "Fuck fate, fuck the future. I'm changing it. I don't care if the world's going to blow up. It's not happening on my watch. It's not happening to my son. I'm going to change everything, and I'm going to be the biggest, baddest person on the planet. Whether you want to recognize me as crazy or not, I don't care. I'm going to save your life whether you think I'm crazy or not."
And she was hot doing it. So, yeah. I've always...
The scene she was doing pull-ups in the room, yeah.
If we ever got a chance to interview Lena Headey, I would love to ask her this. How much did you watch Linda Hamilton as the original Sarah Connor to get your role down? Because I think there's moments in the series where she very much is Linda Hamilton and mimicking her, which I think is a very big, compliment. But no, you're right. That's a great number one. She's one of those that, rose up to become a warrior.
And she started off as a waitress.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So, best scene with her in the first Terminator is when she dresses the woman like, well, that's a good field dressing. Boy, you like that? Well, it's my first. That's a good one. Well, there you have it, folks. Our top 10 of nerd heroines. Very, very different list, but some similar ones. I will mention that a couple of honorable mentions I had is, besides Ray, is I put Shaw from Person of Interest in there, and I think you could do Sarah Sharif as Shaw and What's-Her-Face from the series Life, because it is very similar in a lot of ways, but she's great, in the series. So, all right, we're going to close the show out, but before we do, Brendan, since you've brought back your beer blog, real quick, what beer do you recommend for our audience?
If you read my first post, which is up, the second post is going up this week, but my first post is up. I pitted Great Minds Night Watch Oatmeal Stout versus Upslope's Oatmeal Stout. Upslope's was the winner. It's a great oatmeal stout. It's basically everything you want out of an oatmeal stout. It's got that rich flavor, nice toasted oats on the nose. So go ahead, go out and get it because it's a limited release. It's going to be gone when it's gone because it's a winter release. So there's only a couple more weeks it's going to be left in the stores. But it's Upslope Brewing from Boulder, Colorado, and their oatmeal stout.
All right. Yes, we will be doing more posts of the beer blog yet again, and Brendan will be doing a comparison between different beers. And we will actually do, Brendan will be conducting a roundup at the end of the year of all the best stuff. Just remember, we're nerds. We like beer too. And you can be nerds over beer, and especially with craft beer. So, as for what you should be streaming, there's a great little funny movie called Man Up on Netflix with Simon Pegg. It is kind of a romantic comedy, but I do generally check everything out that he does because it's Simon Pegg. And if you're looking for kind of a nerdy date movie with a girlfriend, wife, or whatever, it's worth it, an hour and a half out of your evening because he's great in it, and Lake Bell is pretty funny as well. I wouldn't say it's a superb movie, but it's a fun movie and a good one for Netflix. So, all right, well, we are back for more of a full-time schedule, but we will be off next week due to being at All-Con, and then in 2 weeks we will be back discussing Batman versus Superman, and whether they're heading in the right direction for the DC cinematic universe. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of debate on that. We will have some weeks off in the month of April due to the Star Trek convention one weekend and then the Dallas Film Festival, which we will be covering yet again. So there's a lot happening, but keep checking out our site for news, thatnerdshow.com, and all of our blogs and our reviews. And stay nerdy, everybody. It's a good time of the year, and there's a lot of stuff happening. And just remember, Episode 7 will be on Blu-ray in about 2 weeks. All right, we are out of here.
Games.
And play more games. All right, stay nerdy, everybody. Goodbye.